in the mornings leading up to the vernal equinox. At this time of the morning, the sun may still hang low over the horizon. But in the Durango Roundhouse, the morning hostlers are preparing to rouse the iron horses of the Silverton from their stables. The dynamos providing the power for the lights are already a-whirring, and the cross-compound air compressors are beginning their warm-up breaths. Rods have been greased, journals and bearings oiled, and finally, it's time for 493, a product of the Denver and Rio Grande Western's Burnham shop, to make its way onto the turntable and take up its position on the ready track to greet the coming day. On the ready track, the locomotive has had its sand dome replenished, important for providing traction with steel wheels on steel rails. Before too long, the engine crew arrives and performs their final inspections, and once again lubricates any part of the locomotive that needs it, before it's time to pull out onto the loop of trackage that encircles the yard. Backing onto this loop of trackage, the locomotive is worked to clear out the innards of the boiler, both on the fire side of the boiler, and to blow down the mud ring at the bottom of the boiler, flushing sediment that is settled from the water inside. From here, the locomotive will steam across 6th Street and hook on to the awaiting string of golden coaches and maroon first-class cars.
You can do it.
Before departure, the train's brakes are pressurized and the requisite tests are performed. Every train departing must have 100% operable brakes before it can depart, and each car will have its cylinders and shoes checked for the correct applications and releases. Finally, it's time, and train 261 departs from the Durango Depot on time at 9:15. Today, 493 has 12 cars on the drawbar for the spring break crowds. Following 45 minutes behind will be coal-burning 481 with another cut of coaches, but we'll be showing you that in another video. Leaving the yard, the Silverton runs a gauntlet of crossings between 6th and 12th Streets as it begins its northward journey. Until recently, this location behind Krager's Hardware held one of the last vestiges of the once expansive yard trackage in downtown Durango. At the Durango yard limits, the 493 crosses the 15th Street Bridge, the first crossing of the Rio de las Animas, the largest tributary of the San Juan River, itself dumping into the Colorado River in what is now Lake Powell. The railroad is intertwined with the Animas from here to Silverton. Of course, it being winter, we'll only be going halfway to Cascade. Between Junction Creek and 32nd Street, we're at the grade crossing of the Animas River Trail, an urban bike and pedestrian system that parallels much of the railroad from Oxbow Park southward and extends well past the depot and past the former site of Carbon Junction, the location of the long ago torn up railroad to Farmington and Chalmette. At 36th Street, the 480 and the Animas River Trail thread the gap between the homes here and hit a small straightaway heading towards Oxbow Park. Squeezing between the gap created by Animas City Mountain, glacial moraines, and the river, the railroad now enters the Hermosa Valley, where arrow straight tangents allow the 493 to get up and go, rolling past the farm on the east side of the valley. Back trackside again, we catch the 480 passing Home Ranch siding. Built by the new Durango and Silverton over 40 years ago now. This siding is the first place two trains can meet after leaving Durango. Off to our left is the former Val Air Glider Park, now the Animas Valley Nature Preserve. At Trimble, the line passes through one of only two crossings with gates on the Colorado Narrow Gauge. Trimble Lane here gets its namesake from Trimble Hot Springs, which is on the hillside above the train and the highway. Even with a tonnage train on its drawbar, there's usually no need to stop for water at Hermosa, and today is no exception. The tender's capacity of 5,000 gallons in its cistern is more than enough to get the train to Tank Creek, nearly 24 miles from Durango. Above the U.S. Highway 550 bridge, the railroad pulls into some reverse curves and onto the Mini High Line, which rises above La Plata County Road 250, which was the previous incarnation on 550 until it was routed away from the steep grades and hairpin curves near Shalona Lake in the 1970s. Let's enjoy this new angle brought to us by a forest clearing project over this last winter. The ever-tightening grip of the mega-drought in the southwest is now well into its third decade, and this early snowmelt shows its head at these lower elevations very early this year. Projects like this forest thinning and much-needed selective logging help nurse this portion of the San Juan forest back to health. Following behind Train 261 is Extra 476, out on a test run. This venerable K-28 has been awoken from its winter slumber for a test run light to Rockwood. Having wound its way off the Mini High Line, steamed over County Road 250, and rounded the granite walls of Shalona Lake, the Cascade Canyon-bound train pulls into the old stagecoach stop at Rockwood. Once the railhead for the stage to the mines of Rico and other locales in the San Juans, this hamlet is the last chance for those who missed the train into Durango to hop aboard. Into the Animus Gorge, we watch as 493 tiptoes on the High Line from the Horseshoe Curve onto the shelf track. The narrowest part of the High Line is the shelf, where the vertical walls of the gorge reach high above and below the train. So narrow is this ledge that it was once exclaimed that the equipment could only receive a single coat of paint. Any more, and it would scrape into the granite cliff. After a delightful midday stop on the Wyatt Cascade, we catch 493 once again, now heading back to Durango as Train 262. Spanning the Animas on the line's highest bridge, the boiler is once again blown down to clear it of the sediment and impurities that had gathered within. We're back to the shelf track again as we glimpse the 493 traversing the overland curve beyond our sight before rounding the serrated edge of the canyon wall here. Unpredictable weather in March has found us in a snow squall at the very bottom of the gorge. Beyond this location, all kayakers and rafters must remove themselves or take on the risk of becoming yet another life taken by the Rio de las Animas Perdidas, the River of Lost Souls. From here to Baker's Bridge, the river is impassable, clogged with jagged rocks and jammed logs. But we look upstream from here and upwards to find the 493 as it rounds the world-famous Horseshoe Curve. We return to the Mini High Line, where we catch 476 running light from Rockwood back to Durango, as Engineer Mountain looms in the background. Drifting down from Rockwood, Train 262 is almost off the steep grade of Hermosa Hill as it signals for one of the private crossings along the line. South of Trimble, we find ourselves along old US Highway 550 that hugs the western wall of the Hermosa Valley, next to this barn and its denizens. attempting to, but not able to outrun this fast-moving snow shower. We catch the train as the short, narrow-gauge cars bob along the jointed sticks of rail. Approaching 36th Street, 480 makes quick work of this tangent piece of railroad. Finally, we've arrived in Durango as 493 arrives with train 262 in tow. Already across Main Avenue, it's rounding the final curve abutting Camino del Rio and the Old City Power Plant as it takes the final straightaway into the depot. After arrival, the train is turned on the loop, and the cars are serviced and switched and swapped as needed for the next day's departure. The locomotive has been cut away from the train, ran back to the turntable, where it heads back into the stall whence it came to be serviced and renewed, refreshed, for another winter's day on the Durango and Silverton.
What are you doing? It's over. Go home. Go. Go home. It's okay.
Chicka, chicka, chicka.
Sir, is there a question that can stump the conductor?
I mean, I'm not the conductor, but you could ask our student conductor. And on my watch, it's lunchtime.
There are only 49 stars on that flag.
I'll be deep in the cold, cold ground before I recognize Missouri.
You're here. It's the end of the video. You made it. And since you're here, you can watch one of these other videos. And if you haven't, make sure you click like and subscribe so you get more content like this in your feed. I'd like to thank you for watching. I'm Big Deal.